Hi. My name's Brian. Really happy to be here. Tonight we're going to drink some liquor and hang out and chat. So this is Winona Ryder's early punk rock band from my early youth. Okay, so we'll open up with Kids in America for you.
Welcome to Tales from the Ditch. This is Sean. I'm here with Seth, and we have a special guest today, drunk punk Brian Wardrop. Brian brought us a tastings worth of scotches, a Japanese whiskey, and 3 scotches. And we're doing them in order of deliciousness and peatiness. I'd say peatiness, right?
Definitely peatiness.
In addition to that, Brian brought us some bourbons, donating to the podcast one of the most generous donations we've ever had. So thank you, Brian.
One of the 2s of donations we've had.
Someone's got to help pull you out of the gutter.
Thank you. So far, we have had Kikori. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Kikori.
And,
Macallan 12.
And Lefroy.
No, is that 12 or is that the director's edition?
Director's edition.
Nice.
My Mole Steak.
And then
I was almost disappointed in myself.
And right now we're drinking Lefroy Triple Wood, which is delicious.
I'm biased because Lefroy is one of I have nostalgia with it. I remember after one of my first sermons, Sean actually paid for a keel, a Lagavulin. It was either 15 or 18, something crazy
16.
like that. But to celebrate. So, and Lafroig, so I have like nostalgia with that.
The trick is, the more Scottish it sounds, usually it's like a Speyside or something like that.
Sounds like an elf name from Lord
The
of the
more
Rings.
elvish it is, that means it's an Isle Scotch, and it's so delicious.
Well, I think when I got married, my wife loves to travel. So when I got married, she said, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "My backyard." I like defensible space. But if I have to leave the country, let's go to Scotland because I like Scotch. So before we left, I started researching Scotch a little bit more. And I discovered that the Lafroig 10-year was an award-winning Scotch. And it was only like, at the time, it was like $30 a bottle. And I fell in love with Lafroig. And then while in Scotland, I fell in love with Ardbeg.
What cities did you hit while you were in Scotland?
When we were in Scotland, we spent a couple nights in Edinburgh first. And then we caught a we caught a bus up to Inverness. And we spent a few nights in Inverness and took a tour of Loch Ness because you got to do that.
Jeez.
And then we went up to Oban and got to go get a tour of the distillery while we were there. And we went to the Isle of Staffa and there was another isle. I can't remember what it was. But it was interesting. There was an old monastery on that island. And apparently it had been rebuilt several times because the Vikings kept coming over and killing the monks and burning it down. And the monks kept rebuilding.
Oh, good for them.
It was cool. Oh, Isle of Iona.
Foundation of Scotch.
Yeah, I believe that was Iona. And then we went from Oban, we went back to Edinburgh. Went through Glasgow and into Edinburgh.
Oban, the Scotch place? Mm-hmm. So is that how you say Oban? Not
Oban.
Oban.
Yeah, I was in customs and talking to a custom agent and was like, "Yeah, I'm here to taste the Scotch and we're going to Oban. I'm going to have some Scotch from Oban." And he's like, "Oh, Oban. Cool. Yeah, Oban's great." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Oban."
Now we know.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's just
It's good to know.
He's like, "Yeah, that American stuff is piss." And I'm like, "Yes."
I would have pronounced it Missouri.
Missouri.
Because that's, they're all, that's not just leave the country. I'm like, okay. Well,
Brian, I'm so happy to have you here. You're looking great. Brian, if I could describe him, he's like a taller dwarf with tattoos. He's got a mean, thick, slightly Mexican dwarf beard.
he did not side with the Dark Lord in the War of the Rings.
He did not. He chose the right side. Stout as the day is stout. Stronger than me, and has these shoulders that intimidate you, kind of like the way you see Wolverine when he's closing in for attack. Same kind of big, scary shoulders.
Brian, I like your
Beautiful
musk and your
tattoos.
warrior's heart. I'm not just going to focus on the physical, okay?
I'm just trying to set the scene.
He has the heart of a... No, I can't.
I come from a long line of lumberjacks.
Yeah, lumberjack is a better way to put it.
I think that's where I've acquired my build from. Yeah. My
Beautiful.
great-grandfather was a lumberjack, literally drank himself to death.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. I mean, they tried to feed him. He was on his deathbed. He's like, "Get that food away from me. Give me my whiskey."
Man, do what you want. I mean, well, I'm just saying, it's his decision, Sean.
Remember Mrs. Doubtfire? She's all, "Oh, Winston, it was the drink that killed him." And she's like, "Oh, he was an alcoholic?" He goes, "No, he was hit by a Guinness truck."
Good times.
So beautiful.
You want to
Okay.
start with questions or me?
Yeah, I'll start. I just want to know a little bit about you, Brian. Where do you come from? Where do you hail from?
Where did you go? Cotton Eye.
I hail from East Cocoa County, just about a half hour east of East Bay of Berkeley, San Francisco area. Really nothing to talk about, kind of the armpit of California. And it seems like it
Interesting.
might be a meth capital. I know that my brother's elementary school teacher was arrested eventually for having a meth lab at his house.
Very nice. East Cocoa County?
Contra Costa County.
Contra Costa, which is west of Yolo County.
Yes, it is. West, and south.
Yes. So you grew up in the Bay.
Yes.
Pretty rough area. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Now, when we say Bay, we're talking the San Francisco Bay
Yeah.
in California.
Yeah. San Francisco, Oakland, Richmond. Yeah.
Rough spot, man.
Everyone thinks Oakland's a rough spot. Richmond's nasty.
No,
And
Richmond
I'm not
is
saying
the
that
worst.
anyone who's listening from Richmond, I'm not dissing you or attacking you. I'm just saying you guys is rough.
Move away. Richmond is an awful place.
You are rough, and I want nothing. I got no problem with Sleepy or anyone else there.
I don't know about rough. I mean, maybe you'd say tough. It is a tough area. I remember one October, one of my first big construction jobs was at Richmond Wholesale Meat down off Center Avenue in Richmond. And I remember driving back to the freeway one day, and it was like October, so I was going to be a skeleton for Halloween. I bicked my head, and I forgot to wear a hat as we were driving out down Center Street. And the older Italian gentleman who was driving was like, put your freaking hat on, dude. We're getting some dirty looks. We're not making it onto the freeway.
Yeah, and you're Mexican, right?
Yeah.
Half Mexican?
Yeah.
But you could easily, especially if you shaved your head, you could easily pass as a tan
Seth.
white guy.
Yeah. Yeah, of more Aryan persuasion.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the Scottish blood.
Oh, there you go.
And so, growing up in the Bay Area, were you all into the hip hops up there? The hip hops from the East Bay?
No.
Oh, really?
No.
Shocker.
Yeah, go figure. No, all through high school I had like really, really long hair and wore flannels and ripped jeans and, listened to Metallica and Sadist and Slayer and
There you go.
Nice.
Yep. My later years, right before I graduated, started going to Berkeley and hanging out at Gilman Street and listened to a ton of punk rock. Yeah.
Gilman Street is a fine establishment.
If you want scabies, I think it's super good.
No, that's a good point.
But
Some of the best bands, though,
I'm just
hail
like,
from Gilman
once
Street.
again-
But it's filthy. It's
And
filthy.
yeah, it's nasty, but it's like a famous place. I'd say Gilman is maybe the West Coast CBGB or something like that. Would that be fair to say? I'm sure there's something in LA, but I'm not familiar with it.
I don't know, because there's probably a bunch of bigger, better clubs in San Francisco. You got the Trocadero Transfer, the Hill, whatever that
How
venue
long has
is.
Slim's been? Well, Slim's is more.
But
it's
how
kinda
well
more-
renowned? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's heard of Gilman. I don't
Gilman's
think everybody's
notorious
heard
for
of Trocadero.
like gutter punks.
Yes.
Man is the Bastard and Spaz played there, and Green Day did. You and I talked about this, Brian, but then they have falling out, and then they weren't playing there.
But they just played for some big reunion show over there. Not
At Gilman?
Yeah, within the last 2 years.
Green Day?
Yep.
Oh, because I thought they had falling out. I didn't know that. Okay.
No, I think they had like a big. I don't know if they played for the big Lookout reunion, like 3-day event, or if they just played for like a Gilman anniversary.
So I just learned this. I know this is kind of off topic, but Green Day, what's that guy's name? Billy Joel Armstrong?
Armstrong.
Is Tim Armstrong's brother?
Not as far as I know.
That's what we just heard.
Really?
Or I just heard that the other day.
No, we
Where
did.
I hear that?
Who,
Oh, yeah, you were with me, right?
It was at a bar.
Oh, yeah, it was at a bar. John from Kiel told us that.
Sounds like a farce.
He said they're related.
Did we do
No, it
any
was at a
research
bar.
on that when he told us?
I have never
I
heard
trust
that.
him. When
We're
you
all
look into
sounds
John's
good.
honest eyes, could you ever imagine him lying?
I have never heard that.
Well, he did try to shiv me, so I don't know.
Ever.
Well, I'm going to research it while Seth asks the next
All
question.
right. Well, it's about time we get down this. All right. So
Get down to the brass taxes.
the brass taxes, as Logan Needham says. So some people might ask, okay, so from the outside, I knew people who went, man, punk seems aggressive and crazy. Same thing with metal, and they're just running around circles. They're dressed a certain way. It seems intimidating or super like aggressive and antagonistic. And they hear the bands and go, I don't know what's going on. And to them, it seems almost crazy, like that whole scene. What drew you to it? What made you go, man, I want to go to punk shows? Or what kind of brought you alive where you were like, I'm drawn to these shows. I love the pits. I love the music. I want to be in this. What drew you to punk? Because some people would look from the outside and go, oh, that's crazy. I don't get that. Why the punk scene?
Well, no one else liked me.
All right.
So,
Oh, sorry. Man. You're so likable.
yeah, whatever. So no one likes you, like I was just a little dorky little kid with, tortoiseshell. Hold on one second. This is amazing. Okay. So I need you to prepare yourself.
Oh,
I'm
dear.
going to savor it. We're opening
Brian
up
is pointing right now. So
House Lannister, Lagavulin. Is it 9? I think I
9.
can see. 9 years. Game of Thrones, limited edition. We're not rushing.
Puff, puff, pass.
Yeah, that's just...
Lagavulin always settles its debts. There you go.
Yes, Lagavulin always sells its debts. Yeah, this is...
I'll wait till you've poured it because I want to see. Yeah, I want to actually
amazing.
taste it. Man.
So glad I could share this with you guys.
Gosh, even the sound.
The nose on this.
All right.
This is amazing.
I don't even care about the interview anymore. I'm just gonna.
We should just talk about whiskey.
I really got nothing else to say to you.
I just. It's
it's
full.
so good.
The flavor's good. There's not.
It goes great with this Highland whiskey tobacco.
Oh yeah, that's
that you
another
gave
thing.
me.
This is Highland whiskey tobacco. That
Nice.
worked out perfect.
Nice.
I forget what, but it was a certain. I can't remember if it was Lafroig or Lagavulin, but they were trying to get a taste with it. So that's awesome. I didn't even think of that. That's the tobacco we have.
So, okay, I'll go back to your question.
So yeah, you
punks
could have
here,
been into being in the East Bay. You could have been into like Andre Nicotina or
anything. But I mean,
MC Lars.
so like, I mean, honestly, it boils down to the fact that like no one liked me. You know, the punks, they didn't give a crap. You know, I was a dorky little kid, like just a ridiculous little kid going in like, it's no wonder I got in so many fights and got beat up and won some, but got beat up. And, you know, I think in 7th grade, I had a frickin' mullet and tortoiseshell glasses, you know.
I had the bowl cut.
I stopped wearing my glasses. So I mean, I got along with the punks because they liked me. Well, they didn't care. They were indifferent, whatever.
Because they didn't care, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't care and I didn't care.
Which is better than hating you.
And then, you know, you can imagine like if no one likes you, then you probably have a lot of aggression or, you know, built up and whatever. But I mean, it comes down to the point, like I can't make people like me. I can't. I learned that quick, but I can make them not like me. I can make them look at me in the grocery store and hold their kids close to them. I can make them cringe. So I'm going to push the envelope as far as I can possibly push it and just be revolting to everyone. I think I was, you know, in East Cocoa in like 8th grade walking around school wearing a East German military shirt with a swastika on it.
Go on.
You know, I had a big swastika armband. I used to goose step around the quad during lunch.
Wow.
And, just being kind of ridiculous. And, you know, I mean, I had people knew me from elementary school. So I had a bunch of different people knew me from a bunch of different sects. So no one really messed with me too much except for XIV. But,
Wait, I think you need to expand on that.
That's 14, right?
yeah, around 14. Yeah. XIV, it's a gang, Southerners. Not my family's are not, no, XIV's Northerners.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, that's not my family line. My family line's Southerners. So like, and it was funny because so I'm a punk, I'm a stoner, whatever. And, people want to get at me. Well, my cousin, who's like my brother to me, was running with 6'9" Ville out of Oakland. So he's running with the Crips. So I had one incident where I got punked by like 16 guys out of XIV. And then the next day at school, a car pulled up and, 6 brothers with 420 on the back of their jackets jumped out. Was it 415 came rushing in and just mopped these fools. And it was because my cousin threw word out there. You know, I had backup from my cousin. We were you look at us, we were completely opposite. And you were at my wedding. So you remember my best man who was this big old Mexican dude. And that guy, that's like my brother to me. You know, I love him more than anything.
It's interesting, the Bay and kind of the I-80 area, the Interstate 80 in California is kind of where you have almost this border between Citreños and Norte guys, right? And so there's always clashes along that area.
so was
Stockton
14,
and the
were
Bay
they
and everything.
Norteños then? Did they wear red or?
415 was an area code out of Oakland.
Oh, no, I mean the X.
14.
The X1. Yeah, sorry. I was thinking of a 14.
XIV.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the 14. And then it's XII for, Southerners.
So what color did they wear, the guys who were coming after you? Because you said your cousin was Crips, so blue, so what was...
So the guys after me were all red.
Okay.
Yeah, they were chumps.
But they weren't considered Norteño or anything like that? They were just their own...
They just called themselves XIV.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's who they were.
But you're a success story because you escaped the gang mentality.
Well, I didn't care for that.
Yeah.
I was a punk.
That wasn't your thing? You didn't
No. I was hanging out with dudes skateboarding, having a blast, going to Berkeley, going to shows, you know. Like you all hear about Gilman Street, and Gilman Street was great, but I mean, Berkeley Square, that was a hell of a club. I remember one day, buddies showed up at my house. We were like, hey, we're going to a show. We're going to go out and see, Tilt and some other band. And I'm like, cool. Tilt's okay. Let's go. And we rolled out and the opening band was, Rich Kids on LSD. And, I remember hanging out at the front, like up against the stage, smoking joints and passing them up on the stage to the singer and just being kind of out of control.
We had a similar, but not the same experience, I feel like. Seth and I never quite fit in, right?
Some things never change.
And
Yeah.
that was part of, I think, what propelled us towards punk. Because, and I know this sounds really arrogant, but I remember even thinking maybe as a third or fourth grader that like a lot of these songs I'm hearing on the radio aren't that good, but everybody says they like them. And I feel like the radio station says, oh yeah, you like this song now. And everybody just goes along with it. And so I thought, being that kid that never had the cool enough clothes and never was really accepted in any group, whether it was nerds or jocks or whatever, I was like, well, you know what? I don't know that I need to necessarily listen to this music. Now, that's not saying there wasn't some stuff on KWNZ in Reno that I loved. You know what I mean? Like SWV was like one of my favorite bands.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But there were times when I wanted more, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but I wanted harder music. And I couldn't find it in bands that were on the radio at the time, like, I don't know, what were bands back then? Like Pearl Jam or Nirvana or Toad the Wet Sprocket. And I appreciated all of those bands.
My brother listened to Wham.
Dude, I love Nirvana.
Definitely did not find it.
So did his
I like
boyfriend.
Nirvana too.
When Nirvana came out, they were great. And then, you know,
When that first Bleach album
Bleach was
had
amazing.
all of the anger and aggressiveness that I wanted. But after that, it kind of, it was cool, but it became a little more poppy. And, and it just still didn't quite have the thing. I remember though, when Seth and I met in fourth grade, and Seth's brother would always get the cool albums, or he would buy them for Seth or something like that.
He would steal. Yes, he would buy them for me.
Or take them for you. Get them for you, because you couldn't purchase them, because they all had parental advisory.
My
to
parents
Tipper
would check the lyric jacket on the tape, so I'd either switch them out or record them off the radio. All right, so here's the thing. I remember my brother came home, he goes, you gotta listen to this. And it was CIV and Green Day. And for some reason, a part of me, I was like, what? Well, what is this? And I was just kind of curious. He goes, well, no, my friend says it's this, it's punk, and listen to what they're saying. I'm reading the lyrics. I'm going, have you read this? And my brother's like, he didn't really care. He just liked the aggression. But I'm reading it, I'm going, this is totally different than everything I'm being brought up in, everything I'm thinking. But I was just so pissed and angry living on 4th Street and sick of getting called white trash. I was like, and I remember I listened to this a lot, and then I couldn't get enough of it. I was like, can you get this? What's it called? Nofix? What's their band name?
Yeah, Nofix.
And then he's all, this band has sex in the title. I'm all, what? And I'm listening to Sex Pistols, and like, it was me hiding that, because my parents too didn't like it and made it like forbidden. So then I really wanted to listen to it. I was like, oh my gosh, man. Because everyone I knew was listening to Blackstreet and I get that, but like in Coolio, and I was like, but have you heard Green Day? Yeah. Have you heard, like I got Kerplunk. I stole it from, so I stole it from Warehouse because I didn't have money. Mm-hmm. And Kerplunk, I was like, this is crazy. It's not even polished. I got Smoothed Out Slappy Hours, I think it was called.
Oh yeah.
It just, and that was the gateway where I went, okay, I want to listen to this, man. Cause it just, all the feelings and everything they're saying, I'm like, I didn't know I was feeling some of this. And they're saying it in a way where I go, well, I don't know. Maybe I am mad. Maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I don't want to wear a button-up shirt. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm pissed. And
Gateway, I think, is a good term. Because it did start.
I'm I'm remembering old shows we went to now too. Like,
yeah,
Sean got hit with a bottle at a NoFX concert.
Yeah, I remember that.
He was laughing at a joke the lead singer Fat Mike said, and a bottle on cracked Sean in the head. And I was like, "This is the punkest thing everywhere."
I remember I went to everybody and I was like, "Check this out," and I was all bloody, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I was like, "I'm excellent."
Oh my God.
Like,
Sean
I have a
was
scar.
so proud.
I was stoked on it.
I remember getting knocked down and kicked all around in the pit at Gilman Street at a NoFX show. Just jacked up. And I mean, let me set the setting. Gilman's a filthy, disgusting club, but we're talking a club the size of a 2-car garage with a 3-foot high stage. I mean, and seeing bands like I saw Green Day there. I saw NoFX there. Rancid there. Like, got to see these bands when they were coming up. It was phenomenal.
Did you ever see, I wanted to see him, but I never did, and maybe you weren't big on US Bombs. Did you ever see them?
No, I saw US Thugs, but not US Bombs.
I know you see US Thugs.
Or not US Thugs, Sacto Thugs.
That was our thing. You guys had, what was it? There was OBHC, was you, alright, what kind of crews? Cause people say there's gangs, but then crews. Did you have US Thugs in the Bay, or was it more OBHC or Most Hated? What was it?
US Thugs was huge in the Bay. My best friend in the whole world actually is a US Thug, because his older brother, when his older brother got out of prison and started working at a tat shop, he became a thug. So he made my best friend become a US Thug. And I remember we went to a show at the Trocadero Transfer, and I had to be like 20 or 19, and we walked in on the US Thugs guest list to go see Swingin' Utters, AFI, Screw 32.
Screw 32. Oh, I haven't heard that.
It was
so long.
An incredible show. Absolutely loved it. You know, I remember, I owe a lot to my old friend Homer. He was pivotal in, changing me to like real punk rock. Cause I think I did start to like Green Day, and Green Day was good. I was listening to like Green Day and Tilt and this crap, and he was like, no, you got to hear this. And he gave me my first recorded tape of like Reagan Youth and Dead Kennedys.
Oh my gosh. There was that. People would ask, they're like, do you listen to pop punk or punk? I'm away mean. And I had it was a Crass album. And I was like, let me listen to this. I listened to them all. This makes me feel like our recordings for my band isn't that bad. I was like, I liked it, but I listened to their quality. I was like, I feel pretty good about my band. Like, I'd listen to it, I was like, cause it was the same recording equipment we would have used, and they're cussing in the background cause the recording's going bad. And I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to listen to.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I was saying earlier about the gateway, is you start with like Green Day and Offspring or something like that. I mean, not everybody, but I feel like our generation kind of gets their start there, because not a lot of those bands were touring, at least not where we were when we were young. So you start there, and then all of a sudden you discover, I don't know what you would call it technically, but you discover more of a hardcore punk or a thrashy punk.
DRI and Exploited stuff. Are you talking
DRI.
like that?
DRI.
So good.
Yes.
I thought they were cool, but
they were great. And like, and then you get hooked at some point. And that, I think,
it's just energy. I mean, you talk about
energy.
Why
That's
the aggression. It's just so full of energy. Like, I don't know. Like I know that Seth was punk for quite a while, but he was also, one of those weird hardcore kids. And,
correct.
It's kind of like you have fun. You go to a show and you just run in a freaking circle as fast as you can and punch as many people as you can and kick as many people as you can. And I remember like jumping in the air and doing splits and like kicking people in front and in back of me and just like having a blast. I remember getting punched in the face so hard and getting kicked around on the floor. And then I remember standing back at, the Sacto Thug show and watching these guys do the Jane Fonda workout on the dance floor. And I was like, what are these guys doing?
Who are these kids?
Can you explain for people? I know what you're talking about, but can you? Okay, so people
fighting invisible ninjas.
Straight edge hardcore dancing is you're fighting invisible ninjas. Like if you watch some of my wife's workouts, like okay, so do that faster, pull a muscle, and then when someone bumps in, you slam your fist into their face, and it doesn't matter if you know them or not, just punch them in the face. So.
Doing jumping jacks and freaking picking up change.
And it's kind of cool down until the breakdown in the song.
That was for hardcore, Punk, it was more consistent. I felt like the whole time they're going us, it's like I'd sit there with my arms folded at a hardcore show, and then at the right moment, I throw a taekwondo kick at my friend's face. And I thought, this is what I want to do with my life.
This is where I'm going.
The thing is, though, there's something, maybe it's baser about punk for me. And there were songs in every other genre that I thought were amazing. You know what I mean? Except for maybe country. I still haven't found a really great country song.
I like Cash Country, Johnny Cash Country. I like that.
Listen to the Highwaymen.
No, the Highwaymen are great. But is that country?
I don't think you
That's
like
definitely
pop
country. Willie Nelson.
Maybe, yeah.
He hates
I like
country.
Willie Nelson. I like Merle Haggard. But
Waylon Jennings.
Waylon Jennings was more punk than country, I felt like. Either way.
He was racist.
Well, that's true.
That's part of it.
Well, yeah.
But there's something objectively good about it that I was not finding as frequently on the radio. And it's something, like you said, it had energy. It was something that made me enjoy it. And I feel like I struggle with this now. Like, we all go to church and there's worship at the church. And sometimes I struggle, just depending on the song, I struggle to feel like that this song is accurately describing like my feelings for worship of God. Because I just feel like there's something about it where something's missing. And I was almost always able to find that in good punk. And I always loved it. It's like this velocity that it had. This ability to propel me into energy. And whether I was angry or sad or happy, it was always allowing me to like meet it on that plane or that wavelength or something like that. Kind of like, you know how like, it's a weird example, but you know, the Hobbit movies that came out, that say what you will about them. They were missing out on a lot of stuff and maybe a little overdone, but they have that in the first Hobbit movie. They have all the dwarves come to Bilbo's house and they all eat dinner and it's all goofy and funny. And I thought it actually worked out well, but then they sing the Misty Mountain song and it's just, they're like singing it around the fire, smoking pipes. And something about that song was so genuine and authentic because I remember I heard it in the trailer for the movie before I ever saw the movie. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing because I was like, this song is so real. It's like, oh, I want to go on an adventure. I want to go see trees and mountains and things like that. I want to see a dragon, all of this stuff. And the song accurately portrayed that. But I've seen thousands of fantasy movies that just have the plain old strings and maybe a horn every now and then that don't do that same thing for me. And punk was the same way, where it was like, we're trying to sing about, you know, our generation's struggles or some political thing that we disagree with, or we're singing about drug culture or whatever it is. Some songs I hear that and I'm like, yeah, I guess that's okay. It's new, I guess, but it doesn't make me feel it. Punk songs, when I would hear them, I would just be like, yes, this is accurately portraying the emotion that the lyrics are supposed to be synonymous with. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Well, I think with punk rock, number one, there's a ton of angst in there, if I'm using the right word, angst.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are.
But, like you listen to old Green Day, like really old Green Day, like Smoothed Out Slappy Hours. He's singing about being at the library and having a crush on a gal who won't even give him the time of day, you know? He's singing about things that like we relate to on a daily basis. Like punk, you know, they're singing about the normal daily struggles that we're familiar with. They're not singing about large concepts that are out there, fantasies or anything like that. They're singing about the grittiness of what's going on, in our everyday life. Something that we understand, somewhere that we've been. You know, you hear bands singing about, like Winona Ryder singing about going downtown in like, San Francisco, Berkeley area and running into skinheads and getting in fights, you know, and that's something that most of us are familiar with. So I think it's something that you can relate to when you talk about The Hobbit. I think it's because when they get into that jam, and I hope I'm using the right term, but it's like a dirge when they start singing and it's gritty and it's like,
that's good. Yeah.
You can feel that. Like that's where you, I don't know. It's just something that gets you.
Yes.
You know, and so there are some worship songs. Like it's funny, the worship songs that hit more of a country kind of feel at the church really grab me, you know, but
I actually agree with that.
There's some of the lighter, the lighter, fluffier songs that appeal to the majority of the church that don't appeal to you. And I know that you've always had personally an issue with some of the affectionate terms that are used that are just a little bit too soft.
Probably.
In the songs. I know that you had issues with one of the songs, like, Heaven Kisses Earth or something like that. One of the lyrics.
Yeah. And mixed metaphors also drive me crazy.
I think some of these, here's the thing I've seen with a lot of these music cultures, and granted, I'm talking more from because you have to understand, a lot of them do not have a Christian base. They touch on stuff that I found out later, some of it was true, even if I didn't agree with their conclusion. Like, the thing I liked about some punk was, there was this deep feeling in my heart where I looked at the world and went, this isn't how it should be. There is corruption. Stuff does suck, and I'm mad. I'm getting in fights. I'm sick of being called this because maybe I don't have enough money. But then, so that was a truth of like, yeah, Seth, the world is depraved. It's broken. That's the truth. But then the conclusion was, therefore, we shouldn't have government, and we shouldn't have authority, and we should have anarchy. I went, And it's funny. I've seen that even in hip hop and rap. I'll hear them talk about, they're like, what am I doing with life? How am I going to make it with money? And I go, yeah. And they go, therefore, I need more money, and money's going to fix it. I'm going to get fame. I'm going to get this gold. I'm going to get those dollars. And I've seen that some of these like music scenes have truths. Trial. The guy, the singer got up there and says, there's only one guarantee in life. He goes, we're all going to suffer. I'm like, yeah. He goes, and we're broken and we're lost. I'm like, yeah. He goes, so we have to do this. And I was like, no. And it was his conclusion. His truth. I was like, I can affirm that. Life's, there's suffering. But then their thing is like, well, systematic, I'll do this, or we'll get rid of the government, or we'll make more money, or I'll get a hit CD and be popular in the hood. So even if the conclusion wasn't right, it was touching something on me when I lived at 4th Street going, yeah, every night my parents are yelling. My brother's hanging out with this white supremacist dude. I'm getting drunk just so that I'm not depressed and I'm 9. Yeah, I don't know if the world should be this way. I'm like, I wish I had something more. And their answer was, that's right, Seth. So get rid of the government. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's going to fix it, man. So it's like, there was truths that touched on. Same thing. Hardcore was like, don't be a victim. I remember they told me that. They go, no, fight back. And the world is messed up and we shouldn't have to hide and dull our senses from this. And that's just escaping. I was like, yeah. And they're all, therefore, fight these people. And it never did it for me. It never fixed it. And punk just at that age at 9, I was like, yes, screw them. Screw this. I totally agree with Brian. I was like, fine, you won't accept me? I will piss you off. I remember I saved up a loogie in my mouth for an hour and kept getting drinks of water and adding to it. And when the teacher let me out right by her, I turned and spit by her foot. Now, it didn't go how I thought, but it was this, fine, I'm mad and I'm just going to show it. And punk was, yeah, it had some truths, but their conclusion, I went, I don't know, man. I'm like, why isn't this fixing it? Why is it not going away? But that's just me. I don't know you guys, but yeah.
Yeah, punk in many ways, punk never satisfied those deep longings in my soul. But in some immediate way, it did satisfy those immediate and lesser desires, I guess. You know what I mean? So it's like, something that's true also about it, not just that it's like so genuine and gritty and down to earth, but like to some extent, passion trumps talent, I think. You know what I mean? And so it was like, you have all these artists, if you could call them that, right? You have Jello Biafra, who can't sing and sounds funny. You have Johnny Rodden, who sounds
a lot of those
really
guys
goofy.
couldn't play their instruments.
Well, Sid Vicious couldn't play bass.
Sid Vicious couldn't play at all.
No.
He'd never even seen a guitar before.
No.
But the fact that he showed up and just like connected, I don't know. There was something about that. Minor Threat, that was the thing. Minor Threat is like really high up there for me. And it was like, they're not doing anything super talented. They're just being there. They're present. They're playing. They're attempting guitar solos, and they're not working out. And they're attempting to sing. I remember when Ian McKay would try to sing, and it'd just be like, and like,
oh, come on. His voice sounds great in Fugazi.
Yeah. Once he started doing drugs, all of a sudden he found his like artistic voice. But I don't know, there's just something about that. When you show up, even though you know you're not talented, and you do it anyways, that sounds better to me sometime, most of the time, all the time, than when somebody is very talented. I've known so many kids. We've known so many kids.
Talented, no passion, no...
who are so good, who have been
mechanical.
playing guitar for years and can play anything, can listen to anything and duplicate it and all of that stuff. But we're missing that angst, that passion, that frustration. I used to think that it was because I'm like, oh, well, so-and-so hasn't really experienced this hard life, but I don't think that's true anymore. I just think there's a little bit of courage when it comes to show up when you're not talented and still attempt to do it.
We did it for years.
Yeah, right?
So what if
Never were talented.
What about when I sit down and tell you like Sex Pistols was a band that was formed as a marketing ploy for a clothing store?
Yes.
For Malcolm McLaren. And, you know, we talk about Sid not being able to play bass, and Malcolm McLaren referred to Sid as a fabulous disaster. And he was.
And he was. And I agree, but they became so much more than just what they were created
The great
for.
rock and roll swindle.
Oh, man.
They got sacked by two recording companies, got paid the full contract for nothing.
Exactly. for absolutely
They're
nothing.
from England, but that was so American. What they did, that's right. Oh, that's crazy.
I feel like DRI is the same way. I'm like, none of these people, except for maybe
I think DRI
crazy
only knew
writing.
2 more chords. That's about it.
It's like they didn't bring much more to the table. But gosh, I've never heard more passionate lyrics sung out than some of DRI's stuff.
Black Flag. Were you guys Black Flag? Either of you liked Black Flag?
Love Black
Of course.
Flag.
Okay.
Loved Black Flag, and loved even loved Henry Rollins' spoken word.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Phenomenal.
So good.
And it's funny, you know, you talk about talent and passion and the ability to make beautiful music. And it's funny, like, I don't know if either of you guys ever heard of the band Anti-Heroes.
Yeah.
They, you know, they're probably the richest punk band out there. You know, they had these 2 albums came out. They weren't overly produced, but they were well produced and they sounded really good. And then, New Line Cinema put out a movie. It's Seth's favorite movie in the world, American History X.
It's so bad. It's one of my favorite.
And they had a skinhead on the movie who had the tattoo Anti-Heroes across his finger. And Anti-Heroes, they were a skinhead band, but they weren't racist. And they came forward and said, "We're not racist and we're going to sue you." And so they won millions and millions of dollars. And their next album.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
And their next album that came out was so crusty. They were like, "We're rich. You. We don't care.
Yes.
We're going to do what we want."
You told me that story. They
never
did
heard
it,
that.
Sean. They made it.
That's exactly how you make it, too.
That's so
Quit
funny.
while you're ahead and sue somebody.
Yeah.
See, it's crazy to me too, because some of these guys had really tragic issues. Like Sid Vicious had issues. The guy from Reagan Youth, I know he ended up dying. His girlfriend died too. Because a lot of these guys had, well, not all. I shouldn't say a lot, but a good portion of them had drug problems or depression. You'd see it in their lyrics, and then they take their life and you kind of go, well, it sounds like they were telling us all along. It sounds like they were speaking that all along of like, yeah, I'm going to kill myself, because they had some of those guys. Have you seen The Other F Word?
Yeah. Love it.
So some
good.
of those guys, you hear their story, like, yeah, my dad left, or I was molested, and I go, and then I look back at the lyrics, I go, I feel like you were telling us that, but I just was I wasn't picking up on the intricacies of like the lyrics. I forget who it was. One of the guys from US Bombs lost his kid, and he had a bad childhood. Another guy from what was he talking about? I think he got abused as a kid. It wasn't the guy from Pennywise. The guy from not Misfits, not Rejects, it was done the time. Anyway, same thing. You listen to him and I go, yeah, that measures up with your lyrics. I'm like, you were depressed, you did want to die, but
Yeah, that's a
I'm
documentary.
gonna look him up. I'm gonna look up that guy.
Look him up.
That's a documentary about all of these punk band members who became fathers. And so it's called The Other F Word, meaning like fatherhood. And the whole premise is like, so what's it like to be a father and have a kid who you're the authority of your child, but all you've done your whole life is rail against authority? And how does that work out? And it's crazy, because I don't know if I've ever like teared up so much during a documentary before, but man, I don't even I can't stand the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I always thought Flea was cool, but he wasn't that cool. But man, when he tells his story, I'm just like, oh my God.
The Adolescents. It was the guy from The Adolescents.
Oh,
He had
yeah.
abuse. The guy from US Bombs lost a kid. The guy from Black Flag had issues with his dad. Rise Again. Yeah, I'm looking at this. All these guys had a lot of pain growing up. This movie, I forget how many people. It had the guy from Total Chaos. I forgot that.
Yeah.
The guy from Everclear, who my brother and I used to argue about. His dad abandoned him when he was 5, I want to say. But the Adolescents guy and the US Bombs were they were the ones that bummed me out. My heart broke for him. But yeah, good movie. I thought it was a good movie. I had fun with it.
Great movie.
Yeah. Should we sell our products now? Brian has a new beard wax. That if he actually had a beard wax line, I would buy it. His beard is glorious. I'm pretty sure I've already seen 2 axes fall out of it during this interview. But I can't believe all the stuff you brought, Brian. Thank you. Seriously, if you guys could see it, it's a pretty nice spread.
I love you guys. I love you guys, and I hate the fact that you guys drink piss. And Sean,
What are you talking about?
Sean made me drink a glass of Evan Williams at the bar one night, and I was like, man, I need to have an intervention.
Oh, gosh.
I need to give this guy some real alcohol because, holy crap, I'm never letting him do that again.
Well, from the punk thing, because actually it's a story I know, but I think I want other people to know it. Oh, crap. Hey, Sean, you gotta try to see where it is. Where's the jetpack lighter?
Did Brian take it?
No.
Oh, it's right there.
Yep.
No.
So we've talked about that, and I know you and I have talked a little bit. Flip, other side has a little, there you go. I know there was, so you, Sean, and I both had times where there was drug use. You've told me some of it. You've listened to punk. You've had, fighting, punching people. You've had drug use. How the hell did you end up a Christian? How's that happen? You're in punk, you're doing drugs, you're freebasing, you're giving people advice on freebasing. Like, how do you go from that to Jesus? That's because most people would say that's crazy. Like, I love the story, but where was that transition? Where was the point where you went, geez, like, I believe this?
I'm a Christian.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
It's a sad story. It's a sad story I tell. So I was doing my thing. I was freaking happier than hell. I was out drinking and going out and getting bloody, not necessarily beating people up and winning fights, but, just getting bloody and just enjoying myself. And, I was on top of the world. I mean, it was beautiful, but I was depressed. I was so depressed. I was so lonely. At the end of the night, I'd go home and I was just so lonely. My fiance had left me. I had started using meth again. One of my buddies found out I was using meth and was like, what the hell are you doing with that? That's garbage. Let me show you something else. So he showed me how to cook coke into freebase.
Oh, wow.
So we were freebasing and drinking like crazy. I mean, it's ridiculous. I was working 80 hours a week in order not to think about life and then literally smoking and drinking all of my money on the weekends. It was ridiculous. And I had at that time I was running a job at Renown and working with an electrical foreman there and trying to give him advice on raising his kid, which
so
is
you're in Reno at this point.
Yeah, I'm in Reno. I've been in Reno for a long time, and I'm lonely. And my family wanted me to move back because my fiance left me, but I was too drunk to get my crap together to even pack, so I'm not going anywhere. And this guy that I had been trying to tell him how to raise his kid or giving him advice, which is hilarious in itself, gave me a card for Living Stones, inviting me to Stones because he went to Grace. And I was like, yeah, whatever. So I threw it in my closet. And then I went to my godfather's funeral, and my mom watched me get up and drink from 10 in the morning till 4 in the morning. And she sat me down and said, Brian, I need you to stop trying to kill yourself. I need you to stop trying to drink yourself to death. And I said, okay, Mom, I'm going to give it a shot. And I went home and I told my buddy, I'm going to quit, but I'm going to phase it out. We're going to be cool. We're not going to go out. So I went to his house with a 12 pack. It's like, we're going to sit down, watch a movie, drink a 12 pack. And, we were probably watching one of Seth's favorite movies, Romper Stomper.
Oh. Yes.
And, drinking a 12 pack.
Such a lovely family film.
Yeah,
it really makes you think.
Yeah. One of Russell Crowe's greatest works.
There you go.
And then, we were like, man, this is boring. Let's go shoot some pool. So we went to go shoot pool. Next thing I know, it's freaking 7 in the morning and I'm taking shots with breakfast before I go back to bed. And I just said, this isn't working. Something's got to change. And so I quit cold turkey and I spent 5 days sober, and I hated myself and I hated my life and I hated everything. I was so miserable. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to Fantasy Girls tonight at St. Patty's Day. They got, $2 drafts it's 50-cent drafts for 2 hours. I'm like, I'm going to drink 50-cent drafts for 2 hours. On the way home, I'm going to stop by the store, grab a bottle of Jameson's and a bottle of sleeping pills. And, I'm going to go home because I'm a chicken and I can't do it any other way, and I'm going to pound this. And I mean, I'm not trying to insult anyone out there who's, having these thoughts, because
You're just being honest.
yeah, I'm just telling you where I was and how I felt about myself. And instead of doing that, I walked into my closet, and lo and behold, I saw this welcome card on the floor of my closet for Living Stones. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to church tonight, because if I'm going to do this sober thing, I've got to find out that there's a good reason that I'm doing it, and that someone's got my back. I mean, I had known Jesus years and years and years before, but I never really had a relationship. And so I, went to my buddy's house when I got off work, and it was amazing. They had just tapped a keg of beer they had been brewing, and I said, nope, I don't want any. I'm sober right now. And I went to church that night, and I sat in the hallway, because I wouldn't go in the sanctuary because I was filthy. I just felt disgusting. I didn't feel like anyone in that church deserved to be around me. And so I sat in that hallway, and something happened, because I came back the next week, and I came back the week after that. And finally, after 4 weeks, Harvey was preaching a sermon, and he said, if you're here and you're not inside this sanctuary, you're not in the church, because the church is the people, not the building. And so I got up and I went into the sanctuary, and I sat down, and it was like the Holy Spirit came over me and said, where have you been? I've been waiting for you. Shit. And I just started right there. I mean, it just changed. I started going to church twice a week, and got 2 community groups to go to. And, I wasn't talking to people. Don't get me wrong. I mean, people were trying to talk to me, but I wasn't trying to talk to people. And
Were they trying to hug you sometimes?
No one was trying to touch me. No one was trying to touch me.
That was what bothered me, was the hugs.
No, yeah. I had Bobby Grossi come up to me eventually and start talking to me, and he's like, what are you doing over here, standing here by yourself with your arms crossed? And I go, I'm trying to look pissed off so no one talks to me. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. So how you doing today? And I said, dude, you got to go away. You keep this up, people are going to think it's okay to talk to me. Like, get out of here. And then finally, after like 4 weeks, he's like, man, I saw you made it all the way across the sanctuary during greeting. And I was like, dude, I'm just trying to get away from you. Go away. And eventually he became my Bible study leader.
Yeah.
That poor guy now has to preach and then go surf every week. The way he has to suffer for the gospel now.
Life is sad.
It's funny, because so when I came to church, my dad actually talked to Brian a little before me, and it was funny. A while later, I remember I was like, why was that kind of the first person you went to talk to? And my dad's like, well, because my dad had gone to our shows. So he's like, I don't know, he looked like someone like, hey, Seth likes those type of people, or he would want to talk to him. And he was like, oh, maybe Seth would be welcome here. Because my dad was trying to find me a church. And he would bring me with him. And I'm like, I had agreed to be a Christian at that point, but I was like, I kind of want to just do it on my own, and I'll just hang out home and I'll be fine. I really didn't want to be a part of a community. I really didn't want, and I was like, and my dad did say, he goes, hey, that guy's really nice. I really like him. I saw him. I was like, the punk guy? And he was like, oh, is that what you call him? I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, he seems cool. I'm like, I know. And I'm trying to find reasons. I'm like, well, but their chairs suck. Because I was like, I want to be a Christian, but not with people. I want to be a Christian by myself. My dad still this day likes you. He was like, yeah, that was a nice guy with the nose ring. And I'm like, yeah, I remember Dad. I still see him. I'm like, he's cool. Yeah, I still see him.
I blame Nathan Hartley, because he told me enough about you that when you showed up at the church, I was like, well, I got to keep an eye on this guy.
That's right. You knew. That's right.
So if anything bad's going to happen today, this is the guy.
Nathan Hartley.
And then when the safety team first formed, who were the 2 guys on the safety team who tracked down the meth head who was stalking his ex-girlfriend?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So Brian and I on the safety team would do patrols. I remember during youth group even, to make sure, because these kids,
the middle school group,
because they would run away and try to hide through the bushes and try to get away, and it was doing those patrols. I was like, church is interesting. I just remember the guys I'd walk with Brian. I'm like, church is really interesting.
There's that kid. Sorry, didn't mean to say name.
We can bleep.
Okay. So his dad to this day still likes me and you, because we actually walked up to his car and knocked on the window and was like, excuse me, sir, can we help you? What are you doing here? You're awful suspicious. Sitting all the way here in the back of the parking lot.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just waiting for my kids who are youth group. Yeah, likely story.
I remember, I'm trying to remember her name. I won't say it, but she left with 2 guys. She was a middle schooler, and they were just up to no good. The 2 guys were trying to get her into trouble or get into bad things. And she came back, and I got in their face a little bit and told her, I was like, we love you, and you matter more than this. I was like, I was so concerned, and I didn't want you to get hurt. And she was honestly surprised, like, that we cared. She was like, well, but I'm like, no. I'm like, you matter more than... I was so mad at these boys. And I remember thinking, what the hell has happened to me? I'm like, why do I care about this stuff now? I was like, ugh, what are these feelings? But she was such a sweet kid, and that's what they were. They thought they were adults, but that age, no, you're kids. Yeah, Brian and I do, man, Nathan Hartley, he was another one, mystery to me before I ever became a Christian. He was a solid dude. He's over at another church in Reno, Hope Church. He's over there with a position there, and rightfully so. He's a good dude.
He's a stud.
Solid guy, yeah.
Bobby Grossi kept coming to me and going, here's all these Christian punk bands you should listen to. This band is called Dogwood. They remind me of Minor Threat. You should check them out. And I came back and I'm like, dude, stop. Just stop. So he introduced me to Nathan. Nathan actually lined me up with some solid Christian punk. But, I remember, we're working with youth group, like Seth and I were working with youth group. It's kind of crazy. And I remember the kids were roughhousing in the back of the sanctuary, and I went back there to say, hey, what are you doing? It was one of the skateboard kids.
Yeah.
And, he shoved me. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And he like puffed up his chest, and I didn't know what to do. I was rough around the edges. I grabbed him by his collar and threw him on the floor. And was like, get up. And I put up my dukes and was like, let's do this, son. And, he took off running, and I actually ran into that kid like 2 years ago, I think, at a meat store where I was buying meat, and the kid's legit back in church now, getting married.
Awesome.
Like, I was like blown away. And he's like, Brian, do you remember me? And I'm like, no, I sure don't. So, it's amazing, like how we've affected people's lives in the church without even realizing it.
That is true. Like, even like sometimes in ways where I think God is using maybe sometimes what you mean for evil as good or something like that. So
it was a solid hold. He didn't break any regulation rules. I mean, when he tossed, it was a legal throw.
It was completely legit.
Not something that necessarily, like,
the guy
you would say is
fight.
wise to do, but something that you do maybe sometimes out of frustration or something like that, but it still is used for good in the kingdom of God, which is cool.
Oh, whatever. If his parents had showed up, I'd have beaten him up too for not teaching their kid respect.
But that's what I'm saying, is God will use that for good.
The thing is look, I as a pastor think if you're going to put your hands on someone, you can't get mad when they do it back. I'm sorry, you shove someone, I'm like, well, you're campaigning for an ass whooping and you're going to get elected now. So that's like, shouldn't have shoved. I'm sorry, don't shove Brian then. It's like, he did that, like, well, that's his decision. I was like, go pray about it.
I've been punched in the face many a time for a stupid decision, but I'm always prepared to pay the consequences of my stupid decisions.
There you go. Those were honestly the only questions I had. So if you got something else, only because I want us to keep us on track so I can do the birthday stuff with the boy later. But
yeah, we're doing good.
Have a smoke with my boy, gamble.
I've got a couple of questions.
Ever since my son stopped smoking, he's been grumpy, agitated, just blah, blah, blah. I'm like, come on, man.
There's other kinds of vices.
Yeah.
So, Brian, we've known each other a while. We used to all hang out at Grace Church doing safety team stuff, putting holes in walls, wrestling. He would always catch me in the guillotine and humiliate me in front of my wife.
It's a good move, man.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I wasn't trying to cause a situation.
You were always trying. You were trying to finish the situation. I was just trying to have fun. Anyways.
I had a good time, too.
It's been a long time. You've been through many, I would say, trials and difficult times, even after becoming a Christian.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I remember at, I think we were still, Livingstone's was still meeting at Grace Church, and I think is when, you introduced me to who is now your wife.
Oh, yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah, crazy
And so you got married, and now anything else new or significant about your lifestyle?
Well, not as much of a prick as I was the first 4 years of our marriage. Holy smokes, that sure changed. I'm an old man, and I have a little baby now.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, 6 months old as of the other day, and holy smokes, I feel so much older. I thought she was going to make me feel young. She doesn't. She doesn't. She screams in my face. And I hold her close, and I go, I love you so much, baby. You're so beautiful, even when you're screaming at me, and she still screams at me.
Yeah, or explodes her diaper.
Oh, man. Life is so difficult.
So how has that changed your outlook, if at all?
My outlook on what?
On punk, on growing up hard, on...
Well, I haven't been a punk for a long time. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I was a punk rocker for a long time. I hated society, and I rebelled.
I can still make out the Op Ivy tattoo on your arm.
Yeah, it'll get covered eventually, I'm sure. And
yet.
I still have the Drunk Punks tattoos on my toes and on my wrist. But, I by the time I ended up at Stones, I considered myself more of a skinhead. I was a working class skin at that point, you know?
Yeah, I could see that, actually.
And, so the one thing I want more than anything in the world right now, having, one child, would love to have two children.
I was
Those
tracking with it.
childs.
I was like, yeah, 2 childs.
But, I'm old, and my wife's old, and I tell her all the time that she's old. I love her to death. She looks like she's 16. Well, maybe she looks like she's 19 now, but, you know.
Kids will do that to you.
So there's always that concept that I'm going to have an only child, you know.
Sure, yeah.
So I want to raise my daughter with the values that I have at this point in my life. I want her to know that with great blessing comes great responsibility, and that you don't use great blessing to bless yourself, but you bless others with that. It's been amazing. Like, my wife and I served for a long time leading ministries at the Reno Sparks Gospel Mission, feeding the homeless. That was kind of our thing when we were dating and then engaged and then married, was that we would use our relationship to bless the world through the Lord. And so we did that. And I want my daughter to understand that. And when she's old enough, I want to take her down there to serve. I mean, when we were cleaning our house and getting ready for her daughter and making room for her nursery, we would take everything we were getting rid of and go donate it to a Reno Gospel Mission thrift store around the corner from my house. That's been my passion. And my desire is that, number one, my daughter knows that she will bless others with everything she has, that she knows that God loves her very much. Since before she was here, he loved her and he created her in my wife's womb. And that no one in this earth can attribute to her value, because an infinite God is the only one who can define her worth. I want her to know how to swim, and I want her to know how to beat the snot out of people. I want her to be able to, I want her to be able to defend herself and protect herself. So swimming lessons are on the horizon so she doesn't drown. And then when she can walk, jiu-jitsu lessons are definitely going to be in the works.
Awesome.
Cause I want my daughter to be, confident in who she is, you know, and I don't want to have to use my gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
No, I
always
think
rough.
I'm tracking with him the whole way up. It just, yeah.
Has it changed you at all?
I'm really tired.
Yes.
I'm really tired. I've been incredibly blessed by the Lord to have an amazing job, to where I was able to tell my wife to go ahead and stay home and quit her job.
Oh, geez.
So that she could raise my daughter, and I'm able to support the house. But that means that along with that comes a lot more work on my part. So, I mean, I've got like over 200 hours overtime for the year so far.
Jeez.
But I'm tracking to make a good paycheck by the end of the year and make sure that my family is supported and that they don't have to worry. So I'm tired, but I'm learning. I mean, I guess punk rock comes in handy because she screams at me. And I just smile at it because that's what I love. But I'm learning patience. You know, I'm learning to be able to set my daughter in the crib and go, hey, you know what? You're going to have to cry this out for a second because I got to go walk away. Cause I won't kid you. Like, I've been that guy who my daughter's been screaming at 3 a.m. and I punch myself in the side of the head as hard as I can because I got to do something.
Yeah.
And, man,
I hear you.
punch yourself in the side of the head really sucks.
It's a spot. I don't like getting hit there or the ear. Punching myself in the ear.
The ear is the worst.
Oh, the ear is horrible.
I think that's actually that is an astute observation, Brian.
What, the getting punched in the side of the head sucks?
No, that A lot of times we talk about having a kid, especially like having a kid later in life or having a kid after being in the scene for a while or something like that. And we say, oh my gosh, isn't it so life changing? Isn't it something that like you never knew, how great of a father you can be? And I was always saying, no, I never knew how terrible of a father I would turn out to be. Like I never knew how weak and frail and pathetic I was as a man. Impatient, quick to anger.
Smelly.
Yeah.
Irish.
Tired. Like when I'm tired and I have to work more than I thought I was going to work, I am the worst person I can be. And the crazy thing is, through that, I feel like you do learn a lot of grace and you understand grace a lot more. But it's not like this magic thing where you have a kid and all of a sudden you're a better man. It's like you have a kid and all of a sudden you have a higher standard that you can't meet.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm so scared. Like, all the time. My poor wife's with my daughter all day. And I don't mean poor wife. I just mean that having a child is a lot of work.
It is.
And I understand that. And I get home, my wife's like, here, hold my daughter. And I'm like, hold your daughter. And I'm like, she screams every time I hold her right now. Like I'm just got home from work. I want to have a cup of coffee and read a comic book. And, holy smokes, you're going to walk out of the room. She's just going to scream at me for like a half hour till you come back. And I'm scared of that. But then there's like, and then even in the morning, cause like, I have a great joy. My daughter was born with teeth. So nursing has been just a really difficult, task for my wife. And, I've encouraged her in every avenue that she's had to take. And I've backed her up on every decision she's had to make. I love her to death. My wife is one of the strongest people I know, but I got to feed my daughter when she was 1 day old. I got to feed my daughter when she was 2 days old. I get to get up every morning before I go to work and wake up my daughter and feed her and burp her and change her and put her back to sleep. And, I won't kid you. There's some mornings where I'm like, she doesn't look like she's ready to get up. Maybe I'll just let her sleep because she's just probably going to scream. Yeah. And I'm going to end up having to wake up Lisa and go, I can't get her back to sleep. I got to get dressed. I got to go to work. I mean, I got to go do things. There's people to save out there. You know, there's stuff to do, but I don't shy away from that. I still wake her up, and I've had some really good mornings with her. I absolutely love her to death. But I think on the life-changing, like the biggest life-changing moment I ever experienced, and I know I shared this with Sean before, is that before my daughter was born, I went out and spent $100 and bought a very special bottle of bourbon to celebrate my daughter's birth. And then Sean and I got together and we went down to the local bar.
This is a beautiful story, actually.
At the Huntsman Tavern, which, if you haven't been there, they have the most amazing beer that you can ever get your hands on in Sparks, Nevada, and an amazing selection of whiskey, and just all around great people that work there. And they allowed me to bring in this bottle of bourbon, and we cracked it, me and Sean and my dear, dear friend Joey. And we drank bourbon, and we drank it with Tim, and we drank it with Kyle, and we shared cigars, and it was a great night. And I went home after 2 hours, and I remember walking back into the house, and this was, mind you, the day that we got home from the hospital, and my wife had told me, you've been really good today. Please go out and celebrate. I got home, and my wife said, good, you're back. Here, it's your turn, and handed me my daughter. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I took her in the nursery to change her, and I put her down on the changing table, and I looked into her eyes, and I said, holy shit, why was I anywhere else except here with you? You are my life. I love you more than anything ever, and I don't want to be away from you. And since that day, like there's been maybe 2 or 3 nights that I've left the house without my wife and my daughter because I literally do not want to be away from my daughter.
Absolutely.
I love her so much.
Absolutely.
And I can't believe what I've received. I mean, we named my daughter Grace because she is God's grace to us. She is a gift that we didn't deserve, we didn't earn. She is a full embodiment of the love of God delivered to us. And I'm super grateful for that.
Riker came up and I thought he had chocolate on his hands. It wasn't chocolate on his hands.
Yeah, Punk does prepare you for that, though.
Is this what I get to
Gigi
be?
Allen?
Oh, Gigi Allen.
No, to add a little more depth to that story, so we met up and drank some. You introduced me to some great bourbons and scotches at your house. Then
that was a different night.
It was a different night?
Yeah, that was a different
Oh, yeah, it was a different night. Yeah. Anyways, you brought the one that you introduced me to, the Jefferson Ocean.
Oh, my gosh.
So good.
Amazing.
We went to the bar. You were talking about, man, it's stressful having a kid. I needed a night off. This is good for me. We wrestled, we smoked cigars in the bar and we weren't supposed to. We had a really good time and you were like, man, this was so good for me. I needed a night out. And then I remember you texted me a couple hours later and you're like, I have no idea why I ever left. Like, my whole life is here. I don't know why I needed to spend it with you idiots. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I get that. Like, I understand that. And that's a beautiful, awesome thing. And it's cool. So.
No, I agree.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay, childbirth.
Do you want me to do the setup and all that?
Do the thing.
So, like with every week, if you have questions for Brian, Sean, or I, talesfromditch@gmail.com. Even if you have questions about what drinks Brian brought, we'll remember them. There's a Macallan, a Director's Edition. He brought Lagavulin 9, which I thought that was amazing. He brought, is it Kikori? How you say it, Brian?
I think it's Kikori.
Kikori. Amazing from Japan. And then, of course, another one that a lot of you will probably have heard. I feel like it's a popular one. Lafroig, but it's the triple wood Lafroig.
So delicious.
And he seriously, man. We started with the Kikori, and then we went to the Macallan, and then the Lafroig, and then the Lagavulin. And yeah, I thought it was dope. It was good, man. That was like the flavor. And then, what did he buy us?
In addition to that, Brian showed up with a bag, and he bought us straight bourbon whiskey, Old Forester.
Okay.
And also Woodford Reserve.
Both good. I've had both those, both amazing.
With actually a lot of intention, saying this is something that you'll like, but also something that you'll go back and buy again because you can afford it.
Yeah, they're not like
as opposed to
$100
$100 bottles. Yeah.
Jeez, I can't swing that, man.
So thank you, Brian. It was so thoughtful and also delicious.
Brian, do you know our, well, no, go ahead. If you have final thought, I was going to ask.
Final thought.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes people.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You want a Tales from the Ditch?
Yeah, let's close with the Tales
Brian's
from the Ditch.
Tale from the Ditch.
Okay.
Okay, I've thought long and hard about Tales from the Ditch, and there's all these fighting ones and these, but you know what? I didn't fight because I was tough, because I'm definitely not tough. I didn't fight because I was skilled, because I'm definitely not skilled. I'm pretty stupid. And that's why I fought most of the time, because I was really, really, really stupid. And actually, now I think about it, I want to share two, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was 4th of July, around the 4th of July weekend, and I was probably 18 or 19. And my buddy Homer calls me. He's like, hey, let's go get some weed. And I'm like, let's go get some weed. So we rolled over to Berkeley.
Like you do.
Went to Telegraph. And literally, I came out of the bathroom outside of People's Park. And Homer's already talking with his brother. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? He's like, dude, we're going to go hang out on this guy's blanket in the park. And so we went, hung out on this blanket. A couple guys came and went. And then the guy's like, okay, let's get in your car. So we loaded this dude up in the car and we went for a drive. And we drove into Oakland. And we picked up another one of his buddies. And we're cruising around and his buddy's loading cigarettes with meth. But Homer doesn't know it. I can see it because I'm in the back seat and I'm watching him. And he passes them around. So he's passing around these not Cocoa Puffs, but these little meth-laced cigarettes. And we're smoking them. And Homer thought they were shrooms, but he was wrong. And then we're cruising around and we go to this apartment building. The guy's like, okay, I'm going into this apartment up on the 2nd floor. I'll be in there for a second. I'm going to grab your weed and I'm going to bring it out and give it to you. And we're like, okay, cool. So we're just sitting there waiting. And we're waiting for like a half hour. And I'm like, okay, enough's enough. And Homer's like, yeah, enough's enough. We're going upstairs. And I'm like, well, that's not what I meant. We should probably just leave. And he's like, no, we're going upstairs. So we're in Oakland. We roll up into this apartment. And dude's like, what are you doing coming into my apartment? Blah, 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 blah. Get over here. And he sits us down at this table. And they're all pissed off. And they're yapping. And I know that there's guns in the house because they talked about them. And I'm just kind of pretty stinking nervous at this point. And then he takes us out in the living room, sits us on his couch, and he hands me this meth pipe made out of a glass jar. And he's like, here, smoke this. You need to relax. And I'm like, okay. And he hands it to Homer.
Because that's the way to relax.
Yeah.
Smoke meth.
And Homer's like, I don't smoke that. And he's like, you did in the car. And he's like, Homer's getting pissed. And Homer's like a big old 6'6" white dude. And he's just angry. And the guy's like, fine, here's the deal. You guys go down to the corner store, Give me a 6-pack, come back, bring it up here. I'll give this dude your weed and you guys can leave. And we're like, Homer's like, F you, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, no. We're on it. We'll do it. We'll take care of it. No big deal. It's good. We're game. And we go downstairs. And Homer's like, I'm not going to get him 6-pack. And I'm like, good. Get on the freeway. Let's go home. Enough. Holy smokes. Jeez. So that was to show stupidity. The next one, it was New Year's Eve. I was 20 and, my band and, two of my other buddies, their bands were going to play. We're going to do a show. We went to a rehearsal studio and it was closed. So we couldn't do it. So we're like, we'll go over to Jim's house. So we head over to Jim's house and, everyone gets there before me. By the time I get there, there's a big old freaking fight that's been broken up because the gangsters across the street from Jim's house were pissed off that all these punks showed up. So they came out to fight. And so it was ugly. And we're like, okay, everything's squashed. We're going inside. We're chilling. And then my buddy Amy's like, I need a bottle of Boone's. And I'm like, okay, I'll take you to the store and get you a bottle of Boone's. So I took her to the store. We come back, I park, and I get out. And all of a sudden, there's 5 gangsters from across the street walking down the street towards us. So I look at Amy and I go, okay, Amy, do me a favor. Run in the house and tell everyone I'm getting the crap beat out of me outside. I'm going for it. So I walk headlong towards these dudes. I'm like, okay, we're throwing down. I step up toe to toe. I'm like, what's up? And they're like, dude, we're really sorry about what happened earlier. Can we come over and hang out with you guys? I was like,
No
yeah.
way. Whoa.
So then we had this great house party with these 3 bands playing, and my band got to headline because everyone else was afraid the cops were going to show up.
Yeah.
So we got to play last, and we had these big old freaking Mexican gangsters running around, breaking stuff, throwing down in the pit in the front living room of Jim's house.
Oh,
it was
beautiful.
An amazing New Year's Eve.
Diversity and reconciliation.
And I didn't get bloody.
So beautiful.
You didn't? Yeah, you didn't.
Well, I got
shot.
bloody, but not in a fight.
Yeah.
You were stupid, but it worked out for you.
I walked into it. I was committed. We're going to throw down. Oh, you want to come hang out? I really much appreciate that.
I feel
love
he was
stories
just being
like that.
cavalier, Sean. Just a debutante, if you will. That's awesome. Okay, yeah, some people forget the Tales from the Ditch. Michelle, remember, thought it had to be a story about digging a ditch. I was like, no, it's okay. Like,
also, I want to give a shout out to all your previous guests. There's a couple that I know, but the majority of them, I have no idea who they are. And, from them coming on the show and talking with you guys, I haven't heard a single person on the show that hasn't sounded absolutely amazing and like someone that I would like to meet and talk to.
Oh,
like,
that's cool.
Your podcast actually opened my mind up to the beautiful people that are in this world.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
See, Sean, and you said I should light myself on fire.
Well, I don't think that we should, we shouldn't go past that.
Let's not rule that out.
Yeah, come on. I mean, let's talk about this for a while.
Do you want me to do it or have Ryan do it? The famous phrase that we stole from Dave Chappelle.
Oh, I just want to say, Brian will do it, but I just want to say, thank you, Brian. It was great to hang out with you, and thank you for the delicious booze. And zip it up.
Zip it out.